The impudence, the audacity, the unmitigated gall of those Knuckleheads of Liberty podcasters, daring to voice opinions outside the mainstream of accepted thought. Listen if you dare. It's angry, it's funny, it's even sometimes sad, but it's always based on freedom and justice, as you will see. Here's our host, Jason McPhee.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty. We're coming at you on November 21st, 2022, the week of Thanksgiving. And I guess, my gosh, I guess we can be thankful that we're at least halfway through the Biden administration and we haven't completely collapsed. I don't know. But we did just get through the midterms. And so we're going to talk about that during the show, along with a few other interesting things as well going on. But before I get into that, let me introduce you to our panel. In our upper right-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. And today, as a special guest, our behind-the-scenes invisible hand, James Just, has come out from behind the curtain. He is the Sacramento County Libertarian Party chair, and he also wears a lot of other hats in the movement as well. So we're excited and thankful to have him on the show here as well today. And our Screaming Eagle hopefully will be back next week. So if you're looking for some Screaming Eagle action, you're going to have to wait till after Thanksgiving. But anyways, as far as the midterm elections results go, we haven't really had a chance to talk about that yet on the show very much. So let's jump into that. Maybe we could get the visual up, James. So we were supposed to have a red wave. We were constantly told over and over and over again that it was going to be a red wave, much the same way we were told in 2016 that Hillary was going to win. And on election night, although we did get a little bit of the result that was positive for Republicans in the sense that they won the House, nothing really else much of that red wave materialized. They held some of their governorship seats in some hot places, but they really didn't take too much else. They barely won the House. There's still a few votes hanging out there, but that's a big deal because it means Pelosi won't be speaker anymore, and they won't be just rubber stamping anything that comes out of the White House. So that's good. So something we can be thankful for. But the Senate, it looks like, is going to stay in at least marginally in Democrat hands. Right now, they have at least the 50-50 split with Kamala's tying vote, and it's possible after a runoff in Georgia, they may wind up picking up one more vote. So we could start getting into some reasons why all this happened, but just a quick take initially. What do you guys think about the results of the midterms?
Well, of course, for many people on the right, it was disappointing how the Republicans performed. But people, a lot of people on the right are blaming the Republicans for the underperformance, or blaming the Democrats for they did this or they did that or whatever, and stuff like that. And I'm sure there are all sort of little things that the Democrats must have done to make this happen. All the ballot harvesting and all that kind of stuff and things like that. But this underperformance by the Republicans in this election, when all of the indicators was pointing in the direction of a red wave. The economy is in shambles and heading south. Inflation is rampant. Crime is out of control. All of these things favor Republicans, but yet they quote unquote underperformed. My thing is that I think the Republicans don't have a good strategy in place to meet the Democrats, whatever it is they're doing out there. Some of it might be borderline legal. Whatever it is they're doing, the Republicans do not have a good strategy to counter it. And this is why they were able to blunt this red wave or this red tsunami. Even though we had a few bright spots, the Republicans had a few bright spots. Florida there was a tsunami in Florida, and they did, the Republicans did well there. Ohio, they did very well there, and there are a couple other places. Even New York, the Republicans did quite well in New York, which is a deep blue state. But overall, I mean, they horribly underperformed. But it has to be because of strategy that they didn't have something in place to counter the whatever this is the Democrats are doing out there.
Well, I think it's more a reflection of the fact that neither one of these parties actually has support. They've got their core support, and then everybody else that votes for them, half their support is opposed to the other guy. And so it ends up we've got divided government yet again, which makes me happy. But I'm happy that we've got divided government. The less they do, the better off we all are. But it just goes to show how little support either of these parties actually have. What they have is, I'm not the other guy. That's essentially both of these Republicans and Democrats' whole argument is, I'm not them. And when you have support, when you've got your support is, I'm not them, you don't have support. And we end up with this divided government that we have, this divided populace that we have, the divided politics that we have, because no one's supporting anything, they're opposing everything. Everything's negative, everything's negative, everything's negative, and we get what we get.
Yeah. Well, speaking of negative, I think that was one of the reasons why the Republicans may have done poorly in this election. My understanding is that in many cases, Democrats may have I guess deftly used the whole January 6th sort of thing and ties in with Trump to, even though it didn't look like it was going to be a big deal going into the election, they had, through the primaries, you sort of backed some kind of candidates that they could tie to Trump. And that may have wound up blunting some of the people voting in some of these areas who might have gone for Republicans. Like there was a lot of split tickets in a lot of places where you had Republican governors elected by wide margins, but the candidate for either the House or Senate who was associated with Trump didn't do so well. We're seeing that with Herschel Walker. We saw that with Mehmet Oz. I mean, Mehmet Oz lost to a vegetable.
I'm serious. It may sound, the Mehmet Oz case. It may sound like a joke.
Yeah. Although in that case, it wasn't a split ticket, though, at least. But it was still just absolutely insane on some of these things. Yeah,
but you're absolutely right, Jason. That we saw in several cases what you did, that phenomenon you just spoke about, where Trump endorsed some of the Trump endorsed candidates did very poorly when there are people on other parts of the ticket who did quite well. I mean, in New Hampshire, for instance, Trump endorsed General Bolduc. He lost to Maggie Hassan, who was one of the most vulnerable people, one of the most vulnerable senators that out there, Democratic senators out there. But the governor, Sununu, a Republican, he won and won handily. But it couldn't pull Bolduc across the finish line. Maggie Hassan won, and that was known election night. Similar we have in Georgia, where Brian Kemp, Republican, knocked Stacey Abrams out of the ballpark. I mean, it was a nice victory for him, but it couldn't pull. As a matter of fact, if they didn't have the 50% threshold, the Democrat would have won in that particular case because whatever the hell his name is, God, I can't remember his name right now. Warnock beat Herschel Walker, but neither one of them got over 50%. So we have to have the runoff. But Kemp had beaten Stacey Abrams, I think, by 8 points or something like that. So we had this problem, this problem where some of these candidates who was endorsed by Donald Trump did very, very poor. Tudor Dixon, who was looking good, like she was going to dethrone Gretchen Whitmer in the governor's race in Michigan. That went down in flames also, and there were several of these all over the country. So it is something that the Republicans really have to look for. I mean, look at and look into as to what is there going to be the relationship with Donald Trump going forward, which is a real problem because Trump have a lot of support out there. I mean, almost 75 million people voted for him in 2020, and he still have this movement ongoing. So they will have to look at what their relationship is going to be with him.
James, any thoughts? More thoughts on it?
No, not really. It's just I've become kind of not interested in the partisan politics because that's what I said. It's all anti.
Yeah.
And when it's all anti, there's no support for anything. It's just, and so we have a bunch of people in politics who assume, like, hey, I have 51% of the vote. Now I get to go impose what I want to do. But no, right? You don't have enough support to actually impose what you want to do, but they pretend they do. And we accept it. We accept that somehow a 55-45 race is a landslide, but you only have 55% of support, right? You still have half the people still don't like you.
Yeah. Well, what's shocking to me is in this era of nobody is, it's sort of like you said, negative politics. Nobody really likes the people that they happen to be voting for in a lot of cases. It's just that they hate the other side a lot worse. Why are libertarians not doing better? I mean, this is just it astounds me. I mean, we're the party who's saying, hey, we want to leave your life to you, and yet we keep seeing people voting for the tyranny of the duopoly, one side or the other, and it's all negative. And it seems to me libertarians have such a positive message. We're not the party of free stuff, but we're the party that wants to let you live your life. How could that be taken for granted? It's just
because you've got the other side has you afraid that you're going to have more of your life more of your freedoms taken away from the other guys, right? And so, because we don't win, we don't have the perception of being able to win, be able to stop anything. It's that wasted vote thing. But of course, you continue to waste your vote by throwing it away on people who are going to take your liberties away slowly. Is just as bad as taking them away fast. It's just slower,
Libertarianism, Jason, you're right. Libertarianism is not about free stuff. Libertarianism is about freedom. Okay, so in that sense, to you and I, it makes sense. It is the only way to go. But I think both parties, the Democrats in particular, are selling dependency. That's what they're selling. They're selling dependency, and people, too many of our fellow citizens are buying it. But I have to criticize the Libertarian Party here a little bit because I don't think they're doing very well on the messaging here. Okay, and I think we spoke about this before, and I'm going to talk about it again because it's really a problem with me. I was looking at the ballot the day I was voting, which was the day before election day I was voting. Okay, well, my son and I. There was not a single Libertarian candidate on that ballot for me to vote for. I normally vote, maybe at the national level, I'll vote for the Republicans and probably vote for the Libertarians at the more local level. This is what I've been doing in the past. But this time, there was not a single Libertarian candidate to vote for. So there's something wrong here. I don't know what exactly is wrong. There's something wrong here in terms of how the Libertarian Party is going forward, in terms of their message, in terms of getting on ballots, and in terms of setting up people to be successful at some point in time down the road. Now, of course, it's not going to be happen overnight. Okay, compared to the Democrats and the Republicans, the Libertarian Party is a small party, which fine, I accept that. But we got to have something better than this. We can't be having midterm elections and we sitting it out. This can't work.
Well, in California, you've been locked out by the party in power has blocked out essentially third parties and independents, and that has a consequence. And so you're just not going to see independents or third parties on the November ballot in California. You're just not going to see it. It's not going to happen, except in the rare cases where they've only ran one person.
Yeah,
because of the jungle primaries, it's just not going to happen. It just isn't.
I think the one exception is
out.
Yeah.
And so we can sit here and complain that libertarians don't have anybody on for assembly. They don't have anybody for state offices, and it's entirely true. But there's not much we can actually do about it. I mean, we can message all we want, but you're not going to outspend them. And I mean, what do you do when they're spending $9 million for a race, and where are we going to get it? Where are we going to get $1 million, let alone 9? And they've locked us out.
Yeah.
And
and this can
and
seem
you've seen in other places, Leon, like in Georgia, the Libertarian had made a difference, right? They have to have this runoff because the Libertarian got 2%. So it's not like we can't make a difference, but we've been structurally locked out. Like in New York, they locked out Larry Sharp.
Yeah.
It's
just raise the goalposts.
Well, it's not even raising the goalposts. They're changing the rules. It's like that Darth Vader thing. I've changed the rules, and I'll change it later when I want to.
Yeah, be thankful I don't change it more.
Yes.
Which is pretty much where we're going, I think. but it can be a little bit confusing for libertarians, because like when the presidential ballot comes up, a libertarian will be on that, but that's because it's not a California office, right? So, I mean, we will see a libertarian there, but everywhere else, just for state offices, we're not seeing them because, like James said, they've sort of locked the process where they passed this thing back in 2010, where you're only going to get 2 candidates on the November ballot, and so it's going to be either one from the duopoly, each side of the duopoly, or both will be from one party. So it's kind of crazy.
Whoever has early money has a huge advantage. And what third party has early money? If you're a third party, you have to decide now, right now, today, before the end of the year, if you're running in 2024.
Yeah.
Right? You have to decide now.
Yep. And because it's grassroots usually, then that's just too difficult to get going, I guess. To get
you don't have the unions or a big business or a benefactor to come in and squeeze some arms, twist some arms to get you enough donations so you can get a start. You have to be independently wealthy to do that. And the independently wealthy libertarians are willing to write checks, but they're not willing to pound streets because they're busy.
Yeah.
They're earning their money. And so you leave it to those who are idealistic, but without resources.
Yep. I think this is a problem of, just that large government, concentrated power, attracting concentrated interests. And, when you're selling people their freedom, there's just not a lot of money. That people take that for granted. Whereas, if people think they get some goodie from the government, man, are they willing to bend over backwards to make those goodies fall. So,
as someone who's run for office, you can do it. You can do a counter campaign, essentially, right? You can run a guerrilla campaign. You can be relatively effective with little money, but you have to be completely opposite, right? You can't be what everybody else. You can't run a standard campaign, and we teach people how to run standard campaigns. We don't teach them how to run guerrilla campaigns or Moneyball type campaigns where you're kind of playing the opposite strategy. We just don't teach them how to do that because we don't know how, because we don't learn.
As much as I despise what AOC stands for. I mean, she ran a very good campaign to unseat a 10. I think it was 10 years or 10 terms, I guess.
Yeah, she had the Justice Democrats behind her. She had big money behind her.
She did not. No,
she did. She was deliberately chosen, Leon. She had that guy. She had, what's his name? Cenk Uygur sitting here. They interviewed candidates, and then they backed them. That's how they got elected.
Not AOC. No.
Yes, AOC. That's how she did it.
No. Her first run. No. She ponged the pavement. I have to give her that. Look at where you put me, James. I'm defending AOC. Imagine that.
I'm just telling you, Leon. She was found. She was dug up out the streets by Cenk Uygur's group. She was plumped up because she was pretty and she could raise money. She did the work. Don't get me wrong, but she had support behind her. She had more support than our candidates do. Yeah. She had the whole Justice Democrats behind her. That was the whole point of the Justice Democrats. Was they got the whole squad elected, and then they got nothing else elected.
I will. Okay, James. I will give you this. Okay. Yes, she had some money behind her because all campaigns need some money to get started. But she ran a very good pong in the pavement campaign.
No, I'm not saying she did.
I'm just saying she had a big structure behind. Libertarians can do a little bit more of, to be honest, quite frankly.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I kind of wish AOC would go to the library and do the work there in order to be a better representative, but that's not going to happen. So, but
Well,
speaking,
James is right. I mean, she came out of nowhere because she's pretty.
yeah,
Honestly, she ain't got nothing in her head. Quite frankly, that's obvious.
Well, she was
But
chosen by the Justice Democrats, then pushed forward. She did the work, and I don't want to put it down. She went out, she pounded pavement, and she did the work. It wouldn't have worked if she wouldn't have gone out and done the work. So you give her credit for doing the work, but she had people behind her. She's not bright enough to put together a campaign like that. Come on.
yeah. Well, speaking of other candidates who run unconventional campaigns and of maybe questionable brightness, talking about Trump announced recently. So he has already come out. He is trying to take the wind from the empty sails of the GOP from the midterms, because it doesn't seem like there's any wind at their back, but at least there's still a lot of media attention, I guess, on politics, and so maybe that's what he's trying to capture. But he's already come out and announced before anybody that he's running for president, and I just feel like, whew, maybe there's an opportunity for the libertarians, because if it turns out to be Trump versus Biden, oh my God! I mean, we've literally seen both of them in action. I mean, as a libertarian, isn't this an opportunity? But it's funny. It does beg the question: what's going on then with DeSantis? Because DeSantis is one of the good takeaways for the GOP in this whole midterm elections. He really smashed it in Florida. However, it is interesting that maybe part of the reason he smashed it is because so many like-minded people migrated to Florida as well. So that might have a little something to do with his success, and maybe have something to do with the failure in some of these other places, because some Republicans got pretty close, like in New York, to making a difference there. And maybe if New York kind of scared away so many people in U-Hauls, they might have stayed away and sent Hochul packing in a U-Haul. The crazy thing too about these Trump politics as well is he's already started with the name calling. He's calling Ron DeSantis Ron DeSanctimonious, and he's making fun of Governor Youngkin by saying Youngkin sounds Chinese to me. I mean, what the just, you guys have any thoughts on this sort of Trump train that's left the station?
No. I think I said a little bit earlier, the Republicans will really have to decide what relationship they want to have with Donald Trump, okay? I mean, Trump, I think, deserved a second term. I really believe he did. Was he illegally robbed a bit? I'm not going to make that claim. I don't know, but there are a lot of things that need investigation, I think. But Trump sometimes does go off the rails and say some things that are oh my God, I just can't believe. Okay, but the thing is though, this announcement that he made, I think, could have some far-reaching consequences, which are not good for the Republicans. We still have the runoff in Georgia ongoing. The last time in 2020 we had a runoff, and because of Trump actions, I believe the Republicans ended up losing both races in Georgia, both Senate races in Georgia, because Trump was claiming, oh, the system is rigged, and people, and some people stayed home, as a matter of fact. I mean, the polls show that there were less people voting in the runoff than in the actual presidential race. So this relationship between Trump and the Republicans is something that needs to be explored and examined, because Trump has a large following. Okay, really and truly, you could call his MAGA supporters, you could really call them a movement, and he have really tried to make some inroads into draining that nasty swamp known as Washington D.C. He really tried, but I am beginning to wonder if this man is becoming a liability. There are people who supported him in 2020 who are now asking that very question: is he becoming a liability? Is he bringing people to the party, and at the same time losing people on the other side because people don't like his persona? They maybe like his policies, like the things that he wants to do in here in the United States, low taxes, less regulation, secure borders, and them kind of stuff. I think a lot of people like that. I do. I like those sort of things. But his personality is really getting in the way of what I think could be a really viable presidential candidate. So the Republicans will have to decide what relationship they want with him.
I'm treating Trump like Lady Godiva. I'm going to turn my back to him and look the other way. I'm just not dealing with him. That's what I'm going to do. That's my plan.
Yeah. Well, he's certainly a lightning rod for the left, and one of the crazy. I almost wonder too. Maybe part of the reason he's running is because he's got these, the sort of legal hounds are closing in on him from some of these investigations that the Democrats are running. And I'm not saying that these investigations aren't politically motivated, because certainly if you look at what they're investigating on the left, it seems like there's no parity at all here. But that said, it is interesting, because if they wind up, sort of getting tighter on these investigations, then he can always claim, hey, this is political. If he's actually running for office, that might throw some fog, at some of this stuff.
Merrick Garland just announced a special counsel to investigate Trump on January 6th, and some other thing that they're going to investigate. I mean, it is so obvious. I think he's going to help Trump, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
I really believe so.
Yeah, I'm sure this investigation will take 4 or 5 years. We'll get our results then, when nobody cares. But we're about that time for our Knucklehead Noise Patrol. So we've sort of missed most of the other topics, and maybe I could get this up real quick, James. So apparently, Mia Brzezinski was on her show Morning Joe the other day, and she said that if you don't like Nancy Pelosi because she just lost her spot as speaker in this last midterm, he said whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, it's sort of hard not to be in awe of what she's accomplished unless you're in a cult. And real quick, I don't know that we're going to have much time here, but remember, Nancy Pelosi, although she's been speaker for a while, and you could say, hey, she may have done a good job in these midterms of getting for her party potentially, she's also the one with the immortal words of we have to pass the bill so you can find out what's in it. Her husband has some seems to have all the inside tracks on stock trading, and of course, she literally tore up a presidential dress while on camera, in the office. So it's absolutely crazy. But unfortunately, I'd love to get your guys' comments, but we're out of time, and I don't want to give James any extra editing headaches. So I think we're going to have to let you go, but we're all so thankful that you could join us for this one. And until next time, stay free.
Yes, indeed. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.